So when I first got to Burlington and I was hanging out, this was before Bobby Jr. ever got on the scene, right? This is the first summer I was here. I was hanging out downtown, and this guy's going to be on plenty of security video from City Hall, provided that Weinberger didn't get rid of it for the Kennedys. Hear me out. There was a guy who I suspect he lives here in Vermont. He was an older guy, and he was sitting and talking to me about the Kennedys, and I didn't realize the Kennedys were involved in this investigation. So I told him the truth about the Kennedys. He was going, I couldn't figure out why he just randomly started talking about the damn Kennedys. Now I know. I said, he said that he brought up the fact that Ted Kennedy, he said he was autistic, and that Ted Kennedy did something for him, treated him like family or something. I said, because you're a white male. That's why you got treated so well. If you were a female like me, you wouldn't have. So Kennedy has been playing you all along. What I just did coming out about the Kennedys and how corrupt they were, he already knew I was going to do that at some point. That's why he was trying to get you guys to kill me. That guy I recorded it on a different phone that doesn't have any service. I don't believe I titled the files, but I'll know anything from 2020. It would have had to have been 2022. I was staying at Champlain Inn. I was at Champlain Inn. I know the date, so I'll know how to find the file. And you'll know what dates to look at on any security video down there. But he was a guy, he was white, and he says, but they were so good to me. They were just so good to me. Like, I'm like, and that means that the rest of us have to put up with being raped because of your good old boy, what? So I literally had this argument with this guy. And he got the truth out of me exactly how I feel about the Kennedys. And Bobby knows it. And the Kennedys know it. So right there is your proof of criminal intent to murder me and set you guys up for it here in Vermont. At the time, I didn't think to mention it because it didn't seem relevant. I don't know if I posted about it on my social media because they shut all the shit down. I would have posted it on my Facebook page. So you guys, Hochul and Kuzi, you need to get the data, the people who retrieve data, to pull up all my Facebook posts from my time and I haven't seen him since. I only saw him a couple times afterwards. He was really trying to convince me that the Kennedys were wonderful people because they treated him good. And I said, dude, you're a white dude. You're white. It's called white male privileges. The rest of us don't have such privileges. And I mentioned Marilyn Monroe and Mary Jo Kopechne. I didn't realize that Joe Kennedy lobotomized Rose because he was molested her. I didn't know that John Kennedy raped a 19-year-old intern while he was in the White House. And that's probably why George Magazine, JFK Jr.'s magazine, didn't mention the Monica Lewinsky shit. Yeah. You know, Bobby talks all this crap about, our family's been so propagandized, well. Go back and watch. I couldn't find it for free, but The Kennedys is a mini series that I think was on HBO at some time. Greg Kinnear plays Kennedy, and it basically tells a lot of truths about the Kennedys. Now, if that stuff was false about how what grimy bastards they were, why didn't the Kennedys sue? But see, you have to remember, most of it really falsely portrayed the Kennedys as sincere about civil rights advancement. And the way men treated women is still part of, why is Diddy on trial? For beating women popular. Hollywood, and that means the Kennedys, Hollywood used Diddy to make violence against women perfectly acceptable for everyone, including women. We're supposed to just lay down and take it. So that's why they allowed all that stuff about the Kennedy sexual crap, as much as they could, as long as it wasn't criminal, I guess, except for the Mary Jo Kopechne crap. That's why, because you're probably, well, if they're so guilty, why did they let this go out? Because violence against women is a patriarchal rapist power construct. It's still perfectly acceptable, and they use Diddy and the hip hop community to make it perfectly acceptable in the minority community. Native Americans, blacks, whatever, people of color, indigenous peoples. It's the new way of forced assimilation. But anyway, in that mini-series, The Kennedys, they lied about why this is deliberate. The Kennedys let this producer and this production lie about why Joe Kennedy had to stop being the ambassador to London. In the mini-series, they portrayed Joe Kennedy as the ambassador to London while JFK was president. And then they made it look like, because of the Frank Sinatra stuff, where Frank Sinatra, Joe basically insinuated that Frank Sinatra, if you tell the mob to get us elected, then we'll go easy on them. They used that to make it look like John F. Kennedy and Bobby were crystal clean, and that they fired Joe as ambassador for doing that, to show that they weren't part of that, when Joe was an ambassador during JFK's presidency. He was forced to resign as ambassador because he wanted to form an alliance. He was the Great Britain ambassador and wanted to form a fucking alliance with Hitler. Anti-communism, pro-fascism, pro-slavery. And Hoover was such a anti-communist, pro-fascist, pro-slavery, racist, bigoted son of a bitch. Joe Kennedy wanted to make him president. And the book that was written, I'll have to go back and look at that documentary to remember the name. That author had receipts he found, and he got access to the FBI, some files in the FBI, and found the goddamn letter Joe Kennedy wrote to Hoover. Everybody knows Hoover's FBI killed Martin Luther King and ultimately Medgar Evers by pulling his protection. Have the Republicans and Southern Democrats propagandized the Kennedys in such a way to make it look like they're rotten bastards? Yeah, but the only lie is that they're not rotten bastards with the current Republicans and Democrats. And the same with the Kennedys. They're pandering to Bernie Sanders and progressives, Dr. West, the pro-Israel movement. Though he's pretending to be infiltrating Rabbi Shmuley. No, he ain't. None of that's acting. From the grandson of a Hollywood studio mogul, Joe Kennedy. And the new interview I just posted from 10 months ago that my YouTube history will show is the first time I've ever watched it. She's saying the same thing I just been posting before I ever watched it. It's all about optics for those motherfuckers. They're actors, just like everybody else. Trump's Hollywood actor. His New York real estate attorney is Cuomo. Bobby's brother-in-law. All in the family, y'all. Yes, is there bickering amongst the family? Sure, just like there's bickering amongst my family. And my family had to convince their grimy family that we are divided and not working together. But ultimately, Bobby knew because he sent that guy to test me in the park while I was still at Champlain Inn. So Bobby already knew I was acting. The rest of you are dumbstruck and awestruck. Bobby ain't surprised at all that I just blasted his ass. Because he knew I told that guy down at the park, motherfucker, I don't want to hear it. You're a fucking white male. Of course they were good to you. It was something about Ted Kennedy got him a doctor and got him into a home or out of a home. It was something to do with his autism and helped him. And I'm like, yeah, that's good old boy ball washing bullshit. What the fuck's that got to do with me? And I was honest about my feelings for the Kennedys and what I knew. Of course, I didn't tell him anything, but I was suspicious of the guy. That's why, because I'm like, why did you just bring that up out of nowhere? He just randomly started talking about it. So I got pictures of him, but it ain't on anything that any of the surveillance has got images of. And all of the New York surveillance, since they have surveillance on me the whole time, they got it. You better audit it. You better make sure Bobby didn't throw that out. So he knew I wasn't true blue. And he knew there was only one way I knew about that shit. My father. So the bombshell I just brought about who killed the Kennedys ultimately, their own partners in crime, and who killed MLK, that is not a bombshell to the Kennedys. They already knew I knew. And they knew Dad absolutely trained me right. So we're not safe. How you guys are going to get us all safe, that's going to be up to my family and up to the people of Vermont to figure that out. And the people of New York, you need to start going public as quickly as possible before they just kill us all. Which would be a very bad idea. Because I got news for all of you corrupt doctors and corrupt cops and other corrupt politicians. You're not going to walk. If I die, my father died, the entire family dies, they damn sure got dead man switches. All that shit's going to come out. Which apparently has the goods on Bob McNamara too, who owned stock in a whole lot of the shit, profited from the war. That one documentary, I guess he was the CEO of Ford Motor Company. How does that make him any different than Trump appointing Elon Musk as head of Doge? He gave CEOs and oligarchs who were profiting from the war. How is Bob McNamara any different than Caspar Weinberger or Barry Goldwater or Virginia G. Piper? In fact, the owner of the Washington Post, when that lady inherited it, when you watch that movie with Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep, she calls McNamara out. You lied to all of us. Why? He never said, because I own stock in weapons. I own massive stock in whoever produces the weapons and military suppliers. He lied to his own friends. He lied to everybody. Of course, he used my father to figure out how to avoid World War III. You're still stealing his intellectual property and letting these Kennedy documentaries make it look like Robert Kennedy Sr. was the genius who did that. You ain't gonna steal my father's shit and kill him and get away with it and put my dead body off on him. All right, you keep right on thinking that. And he's got all his guardian angels, which includes the entire U.S. military. You won't see their motherfuckers coming. And to my father, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I was sitting down there, I don't remember what I was doing in the park, and this guy sits next to me and starts talking about who the hell was he again? Not Patrick Kennedy, Ted Kennedy. And if I had known, that's another reason why they didn't have Bobby all over. That's another reason why Bobby didn't let the New York investigators ever know that he was involved. He was saying, well, we can't have her involved because she'll start lying to impress me. No, I'll start lying so you don't know what's really going on. And meanwhile, you sent your boy to test me by talking about how wonderful the Kennedys were to him. And I told him they were rapist pieces of shit just like everybody else. And I recorded myself saying it to him. And so did plenty of other surveillance. And since Cousy and the sheriff's departments had surveillance on me, they've got it too. So, Bobby, could be all these local cops were playing you. Could be all these local doctors were playing you. They knew you were involved. I didn't. So they had to cover all of our asses to get you all to do what you guys were going to do. I don't know that for a fact. It's just a possibility. Couldn't figure out why these doctors were still doing stupid shit when they knew they were under investigation. They knew the ones running the investigation were just as corrupt. Apparently they knew the Kennedys were involved somehow. Or maybe they didn't. I don't know. But I know that I don't believe that Sarah George or Mulvaney stand and to my parents and my family members who are going to watch this at some point, or JAGCOR, I remember Buffalo lawyers saying that the only a large firm with lots of different lawyers who understood all the different specialty areas would be able to deal with this investigation. And Vermont, shit, they let lawyers do apprenticeships. They don't even have to go to law school. I'm not saying there aren't lawyers here that went to law school. I'm just saying that this is a tiny little state. And if you remember, the local legal aid said the same thing that the Buffalo lawyers did. We're not equipped to deal with this. So Sarah George and the sheriff and all local law enforcement were relying on New York to tell them what to do and how to handle this. And they pandered to Bernie's people about trying to make it look like Mossad was involved in the Kennedy assassination because he wanted to examine their nukes, and that was all posturing. That was all blackmail, extortion. by JFK. It was leverage. He wanted to get the goods on all his partners of crime, so they could to make him untouchable. But he went too far when Bobby started locking up people, putting them in prison, and destroying careers. Like Jimmy Hoffa was the president. He founded the Teamsters. He put his blood, sweat, tears into fighting for those employees. Did he ultimately do stupid shit? Yeah, but it was still his life. And he went to prison. And the Kennedys are acting like, oh, they have no business locking anybody up or writing up. RFK wrote the RICO legislation to make it look like he wasn't part of it. And then how was the RICO legislation used? Drunk, corrupt Rudy Giuliani goes after the people that they're using. Uses it to lock up the poor. That's why Bobby Jr. still got a license to practice law. He had to have the goods on somebody. So Bobby knew my recent videos when I said, we're AA. We ain't beholden to you or any other political cause. He knew damn well. That's why he told you to go ahead and kill me. He lied to you about why he was advising you to not get any victim services. Oh, no, we really need to get this on these people, and we're just trying to get the whole cabal. We really need to know who everybody is. That's all bullshit. You don't ever. Oh, it's a matter of national security. We're really going to catch the people who killed the Kennedys and MLK. No, the fuck they weren't. He already knew who did it. They did. The Kennedys killed the Kennedys, ultimately. And MLK. It was RFK Sr. who gave Hoover permission to bug Martin Luther King. Wake up, folks. Which I think you were already suspicious anyway, but and if I'm hurling daggers, I gotta hurl them at everybody. Keeps everybody safe, keeps us all alive.